Hey everyone, it's Amy Lynn Durham, and you're listening to Create Magic at Work. Create Magic at Work is on a mission to equip senior leaders with tools they need to be a true servant leader and actually understand what that means. Improve employee engagement, retain top talent, and transform your workplace culture to have less stress and drama. So let's start making magic. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Create Magic at Work. I'm super excited today because I have Roly Walter with us. Roly is the founder of Appraisd, which is an employee performance management system that's unique and aiming to help managers get the best from their team members. I was super interested in interviewing Roly because I come from a corporate world where we gave performance reviews often and frequently. And so I'm excited to have him here today with us. He built this SaaS from his garden shed to a global business. And I'm really intrigued by that as well. He's fascinated by what it means to be a manager, why middle management has become a dirty word, why management is seen as inferior to leadership, how managers also need to be coaches, mentors, as well as holding their team members to account. Roly says it's hard to be a manager, and this is what drives him to build tools to help. Roly, welcome to Create Magic at Work.
Thank you very much. What a lovely introduction. And I'm very delighted to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you here because just in explaining to everyone a little bit about who you are, so many things came up for me. And I just want you to maybe start telling the audience why you came up with Appraisd and what's unique about it with this evaluation system.
Okay, I will, yeah. So I started out I left university with an engineering degree. I ended up at Goldman Sachs in HR, working on kind of web projects. And this is in the year 2001, 2002, so quite a long time ago. And I loved my job there. It was absolutely brilliant. And it was fascinating because it was my introduction to HR. And actually, Goldman were doing quite progressive things at the time around performance reviews and trying to get the best out of people and 360-degree feedback and stuff like that. So I worked on these projects. Anyway, 10 years go by and I do various different things. I still got this thing in the back of my head, which was I'm pretty sure that most organizations out there are doing some kind of performance management. They're doing some sort of process. Maybe it's an annual appraisal, or perhaps they're starting to think about continuous performance management. And all the tools that I'd seen out there so far were really horrible and very clunky to use. And they'd all started out with really good intentions, like we want to make this easy for people to use, so we'll do it online and save the data there and stuff like that. But really, they ended up being a means for HR to store data. So basically, it was a form that you just filled in online. And the value of this process really was for HR. They got to look at the data, store stuff on records. They got to be able to look at things year after year, maybe do compensation reviews and things like that. And what had got lost along the way, I think, was the meaning for employees and managers. And that is why people were finding it so hard to get them done. And their managers complained about it year after year. Huge bottleneck in the run up to Christmas to, appraise 20 people. And then employees typing in their self-assessment thinking, what's the point in this? Because, I'm just going to be graded anyway. This meaning had got lost, and I was absolutely certain there was a better way of doing this. And obviously at the time, it coincided with the birth of new apps like Gmail and Facebook that really showed us the power of user interface design on how it could change behavior. So I thought, right, let's have something. We've got SaaS apps now, very easy to set up and use and configure for many different organizations. Let's combine that with a great user experience that puts the power and the value and the benefit back towards the managers and the employees. So it's going back to them. It's about making sure that they get the best from each other. And so I thought, let's have another go at this. I'm going to start coding in my shed. I think my wife was in labor at the time that I sent our first invoice. And it became a real passion project of mine. And it was, the early days were great fun. And I did the classic lean startup thing with an MVP, managed to put up a really basic website, got a few people to sign up, and then had to quickly finish building the rest of the system. And it's kind of gone from there. And it's been a very exciting 8 or 9 years.
That's amazing. Do you still work in your garden shed?
I moved house last year, and I almost thought, oh, maybe I should hire a crane to take the shed
Take
out
it
and
with
put
you.
it. Yeah, take it with us. But oh no. So sadly, no. Now I have a proper office,
Yeah.
and it's all a bit more serious and grown up now. And yeah, no spiders. I remember my first employee. When I hired her, I said after about a year, and she used to come and work in my shed as well. And I said, you know what? It's a good thing that you don't mind spiders because there are loads in this shed. And she said, well, actually, I really hate spiders, and I just every time I come here, I have to sort of hold my breath and not look into the corners too much.
I thought you were going to say a spider was your first employee when you started that story. But
Yeah,
okay, so
no.
here's what I want to talk about. When I was reading your bio to everyone, you had mentioned in that middle management is becoming a dirty word, or I can't remember. Let me pull it back up again. Yeah, middle management has become a dirty word. And that really intrigues me to have a conversation about that, because I was listening to some of the workplace changes from COVID and how companies need to pivot from having, somebody managing input and rather, to move to somebody managing output. What's your take on that? Can you expand on why you think middle management is a dirty word, or if there is even going to be a spot for middle management in the future of the workforce?
That's a great question. And I think so. What I mean by that is, I think that this is true in some circles, not in all, not in the enlightened, what I would imagine like enlightened circles. I think management is more important than ever, and it's here to stay. And actually, it's a wonderful thing to be a manager. What you can achieve through other people is incredible, and it can be a very, very personally rewarding process. And so I think it's a great thing to aspire to be, and I think it's a very important role in every organization. I think the problem is that management is often the kind of the butt of jokes, isn't it? If you think about Dilbert cartoons, or you think about people complaining to management, or management did this, or whatever, it does have kind of negative connotations sometimes. And I think that's really interesting. And why? Why is that? Is it because management has been too kind of top down and task driven for too long, and actually this kind of new wave of things like compassionate leadership is taken too long to arrive? These are the things that kind of fascinate me, and I think it's about time that we maybe gave managers a bit of a break, because we sort of expect them to be the people who get results, hold people to account, hire and fire people if they're not performing, and all of that. But at the same time, we now expect them to be able to coach people, to really take a lot of time to develop people who perhaps are underperforming, and to empathize, and to do all of those things, which are great. But at the same time, we need them to do all of the other things as well, make people accountable and stuff like that. And I think it's a difficult ask. It's a big ask. And I feel like the world has swung a long way towards the employees having all the power in the relationship. This is obviously, I'm talking about highly developed economies here, where we've had a huge emphasis in the last decade on employee engagement and the employee experience. And this has been driven by the kind of the war for talent. And the balance between employer and employee has shifted so much now towards the employee that I wonder if sometimes it's possibly gone a bit too far, maybe. And actually, we need to help managers. Certainly, that's my area of interest. Like, I think employees are on the whole, certainly the clients that we work with are really well served, really well looked after. Everybody takes great care of their employees. Perhaps now we could look at the managers and think about what it means if you're a new manager, or you're a manager that has imposter syndrome, or you're a manager that has blind spots. How can we help those people so that the balance is absolutely equal, and that manager and employee can really get the best from each other? That's kind of what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a great perspective, because managers are so important if they're doing their job properly.
Yeah.
But then it's, wow, look at all the hats that you just described that they have to wear. And it's just so interesting to me because drawing from my experience and my former jobs, I always felt like I was squeezing in or trying to fit in the connection or the team building activities. Well, let me see if I can fit this in for the 10 minutes because we've got to talk about numbers and performance and accountability and all of these things. So I felt split, like I was splitting myself and squeezing in that creative, all of those things you were talking about, the skills that we need to be a compassionate leader, we need to get to know each other, we need to be authentic, we need to connect. And the irony of it was that's the stuff that improves employee engagement, profitability, and productivity.
Exactly.
And I was just trying to shove it into the time frame that I had because we were inundated with all of these other things. And I completely agree in the fact that it's interesting to me because some would argue that middle management could be going away. I've heard that COVID and, talking about, just to give you a visualization, the huge office buildings with all of the different cubbies. And then, the movie Office Space, right? Where 5 different people ask him for his TPS report. 5 different managers are coming and asking him for something. It's a comedy movie. I don't know if you've seen it.
Right. I haven't seen it.
So there's like 5 different managers asking him for a report he didn't turn in. It's kind of a joke that there's like this many taskmasters over his cubby area coming to him. And so the argument is now that the pandemic has been here and CEOs and leaders are looking at these empty office spaces and they're like, hey, we still survived. People are still getting their work done at home.
Yeah.
Why do we need these taskmasters? So that's sort of why I asked you that question. But, to your point, there is still going to be a spot for middle management, right? As long as they're managing and the companies are supporting them. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that piece that I was sort of getting at, but yeah.
If you have obviously the structures can change. So if we think about a global consultancy and accountancy with 200,000 employees, there will be several layers there of management, and rightly so. But perhaps some of those managers are actually career coaches, and they separated it out there. So you've got your project manager, and then you've got your career coach is more like a mentor to guide you through your career. And actually, to me, that makes a lot of sense. And I can see that working more broadly and that pattern being rolled out. And certainly, on our system, we're seeing many more organizations have a very fluid hierarchy that changes all the time. And that's been interesting to kind of develop features to support that. So that I do think that is one direction that this could all go. But on the other hand, if you have an organization with 10,000 employees and people are kind of not doing project work, they tend to be doing the kind of, we've got the classic kind of line manager, they've got a supervisor, and then the supervisor has a manager, and the manager has, a senior manager, then I don't see that going away anytime soon. Certainly the whole process can be more efficient. So what you might have spent a lot of time as a manager doing previously is gathering data and sort of querying what's going on and trying to get to the bottom of things and checking up on things. A lot of that can be automated now because so much of what we do is online and we can do integrations and things like that. And so whereas in the past it would be difficult to really be a fantastic manager for more than, let's say, 8 people, just because of time constraints. Perhaps if we can kind of optimize the processes a little bit, then perhaps we can have fewer managers, but I really don't think it's going to make a huge difference.
What does success look like for you? What are 3 courageous things you can do for your work and your career? What are you proud of that you've already accomplished? Take a moment to access your own internal wisdom using the journal prompt cards I created. They invite you to reflect about different themes regarding your work and your career. A deck of 33 beautiful gloss stock cards, and each card contains an affirmation and 2 questions for you to write out your thoughts. You can utilize them virtually, in a group, or individually to create a workplace where employees are highly engaged with less drama and stress. And now they're available in a journal book version. Go to createmagicatwork.net/tools today and get your own deck of journal prompt cards or the newly released Create Magic at Work, the journal. Sending magic your way.
I think for me, what we're coming to kind of just in this conversation or as organically is redefining what the stereotype of a middle manager is maybe. And as you're saying, these tasks are becoming automated, or these things that maybe a human did before are, a computer can do them now, is basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, loneliness and isolation in the workplace totally creates a disengaged workforce. So to me, it's almost morphing what middle management is responsible for and what we look to them for and what they should be proud of when they're at work.
Yeah.
And what they should be proud of is maybe their employee engagement metrics, maybe
Absolutely.
their mental health and well-being of their staff, which, how do we measure that, right? I've seen some pretty crappy employee engagement surveys that didn't mean anything. They were just, just to say we do it, right?
Yeah.
What it really I loved about what you're doing with Appraisd is you have a mental health and a well-being aspect with that. So what prompted you to add that in, and how does that help?
Okay, yeah, great question. So what prompted it really was the pandemic and a huge shift from all of our clients saying suddenly, right, we're all working from home. What can you do to support us while we manage our teams at home? We've got thousands of managers now trying to manage their teams remotely. And so there are two things that we do. One is we try to help the performance of an individual become much more objective and just based on figures and expectations set at the beginning. So that makes the relationship easier because you can say, look, here we go. This is what we agreed and this is how you're doing. And, it's just there to see and we can discuss that. That's great. And it takes the kind of personal pressure out of it. So then the question becomes like, how can I support you best as a manager? And so for these, and, support you means think about what motivates you, what inspires you, what your sense of purpose is, and what you're struggling with, or what you find challenging, and what, and how I could coach you to improve things that you're doing, so you can be your best, most performance self. And so, at the start of the pandemic, we created the working from home check-in. So it's very simple, but it's a check-in that you might have once a week with your manager, and it covers a number of different aspects. So one of them is your workload. Like, this is a pandemic. We're working from home. You're struggling to be productive because you don't have access to the stuff you need. And, how is it going? Are you on track with your objectives? We still want to push forward as a company. Are you able to contribute to the company? That's kind of question one. Is there any problems we can solve? And then the other flip side of this is your well-being. How do you feel? Are you kind of feeling inspired, bored, lonely? Maybe you're actually feeling physically unwell because, maybe you've even got COVID. Do you feel like there's enough communication? Because that's definitely something that would take a hit, with a move to working from home. And what we discovered, and we put this out to all of our clients, and we got lots of really great feedback from all of them. And so we're able to kind of iterate this template really, really quickly. And we did several versions. I think we're on version 6 or 7 now. And one of the things that worked really well was around the well-being stuff, was having these kind of multiple choice questions where you could say, yes, I'm doing fine. We had an option that said something like generally fine. And then you could also tick anxious and stressed and stuff like that as well. And what we found was that people would often tick 3 or 4 or 5 of those boxes. So they would say, generally I'm fine, or doing well, and also anxious. And this is really good because it meant that a manager could see that obviously at some times during the week that person feels a bit anxious, or okay, and it could start the conversation. But it was not too frightening because you knew that person was kind of generally fine as well, and it kind of lowered the barrier to having that discussion that you might not have had with your employee in an open plan office. And so my belief is, and certainly I found this out myself as a manager, is that the move to working from home has been, in many cases, a fantastic thing for managers, because you can use systems like this where you can spark these conversations that you might not have done before. And so we've had a bit of a cultural step change in some places. And managers and employees have got a bit kind of emotionally closer, I think, in some cases. And I've advocated that people do these check-ins, these weekly check-ins, or if you're doing monthly check-ins, one-to-ones, that's fine, that they keep doing them from home, or they go off-site or something like that. But if you do it from home, it's great because you're both in your own territory. You feel you're relaxed, you're at home, you've got your favorite mug, you're sitting on your couch, and it's absolutely a safe place for you. And no one sees you going off into the corner office with your boss to have a kind of really long discussion. There's nothing like that. There's no stigma. There's no expectation from other people or anything like that. And I think actually that's been a really great thing for many managers. So that's how we've kind of responded to the pandemic.
Yeah, you have me thinking a lot. Pre-pandemic, there were a lot of managers that had teams that were geographically separated, even though it wasn't the work from home. So all of these tools coming out now because of the work from home or the hybrid workforce, they're actually helping managers that already had teams that were separated geographically. They can use these tools as well. So that's kind of cool. That's a win-win there. And the other thought that I have with everything you're sharing is all of these tools that are provided to managers to connect, like you were just talking about, checking in on mental health, all of those things. We can't forget the manager and their mental health and their well-being, and providing them tools for how to have those conversations you were talking about. And how do I have that conversation? And this is what we're talking about in this conversation is the shift, right? From the taskmaster, from measuring accountability to how can I be a great conversationalist? How can I communicate? How can I have difficult conversations with grace and ease? How can I ask questions that create connection? That's all coaching. That's all coaching training. None of that has to do with, can you read a profit and loss statement? Can you read an Excel spreadsheet? And I really believe that this is going to be the future of management. When I hear others say, when I first I heard an expert on a different podcast sort of saying maybe management might be going away because we don't need these taskmasters anymore. I even got my nervous system reacted. I got this feeling inside like job security, and I'm not even in that space anymore. I mean, it was years ago, right? And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, and I'm sure that there's thousands of managers that might feel that way. And I think that our conversation today is saying, hey, you're needed, you're valued. It's not just everyone giving you tools to go out and help the employees. Executive management needs to give these managers tools on how to coach, on how to team build, on how to create space for emotional intelligence skill building, spiritual intelligence skill building, and have these traits as a manager in the workplace that are really, to me, non-negotiables moving forward as far as being able to work with people. So, really, really great stuff. Thank you for sharing that. I have a couple more things. I ask every guest what they feel servant leadership is.
Servant leadership.
So I'd love for you to share.
Okay, well, I am lucky enough to have worked a fair bit with Shopify. We did some work with them with Appraisd on supporting their gurus. And when we did the work with them, it was fascinating because I learned a lot about servant leadership from them. And the way they described it, of this kind of inverted pyramid of having these gurus who are the people who you would contact if you had a Shopify shop and you'd set up your shop and you needed some help. You'd contact your guru. And there were thousands of gurus, and they all work from home. So this was way before the pandemic. And the way they described it was beneath each of these gurus was a servant leader who was there just checking in with everyone and making sure those people out there on the front line were really well supported, were coached, knew what they were doing, were happy, got the kind of social benefits from working for the company as well through, and they did some great pioneering stuff with having kind of local meetups with Shopify employees to kind of give people a sense of community, even though they're all working from home. They really kind of opened my eyes to it. And this was a few years ago, and I thought it was fascinating. And then all of the people who supported the gurus, beneath them, there was another down at the point of this inverted pyramid. There was somebody else making sure that all those people were doing okay, and they felt like they were being effective, and they were able to help those gurus do their best work. And yeah, I thought it was fascinating, and I just love this picture of the kind of inverted pyramid and it makes total sense to me, and it sort of sits well with my personality as well, because I'm not even though I'm a leader, I'm not necessarily someone who always wants to be the center of attention. And I love the idea of being able to do more through other people and getting other people to shine, getting them to be the center of attention. And so it's a model that I take a lot of comfort from it. That is a valid form of leadership. And of course, it's a valid and great form of leadership.
Really good. Thank you for sharing that. Just the power of language and naming something in a different way, saying you're a servant leader, not an accountability manager. I don't know, whatever.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. The power of that, because people own their titles, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Putting a label on it and giving it a name. It validates it. And absolutely. That's really important. That's a really good point.
Yeah. Okay. It's your turn now. Every guest, I pick a card meant for you from the universe for workplace and career, and it's for the audience listening too. And you get an affirmation, and then you get a question or two to answer on the fly.
Okay.
So I have my pile over here of journal prompt cards, and I'm going to get the message. Oh, yay. Okay. So you got partnership.
Okay.
And this is for everyone listening as well. The people in my network are supportive and genuine. That's the affirmation for partnership. Okay, Roly, what are 3 things that you can do or you think people can do to make work relationships harmonious?
Communicate more frequently.
Love it.
Be honest. Say what you think, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. So say what you think, and if you think the wrong things, you'll learn from your mistakes. So, it's by kind of just doing more, you refine your ability to get the best out of a partnership with other people. So just throw yourself into it.
One of the 4 communication principles, because you said be honest and communicate, is tell the truth without blame or judgment. And then the mistakes that you're hitting on, don't be afraid to make a mistake. Quantum leadership, inspiration, innovation can live out of mistakes, or if you're right there on that edge of chaos, right?
Yes.
So don't be afraid of that. And we focus a lot on management today and middle management. That's a big piece for middle managers to really take into their consciousness.
It is.
Not to be afraid of mistakes, not to be upset when your employees make mistakes, and create that psychological safety. So thank you so much for everything today. You brought so much value to the show.
Thank you.
And just tell everyone how they can connect with you and get a hold of you.
I love it when people connect on LinkedIn with me. So you just look me up, Roly Walter, and you'll find me on LinkedIn. And I love it if people ask me difficult questions or challenge what I just said or anything like that. So take a look there. And if you're interested in what we do for our clients, then have a look at Appraisd.com, and you can find me on there as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Roly.
Thanks a lot. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Hey everyone, it's Amy here. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Create Magic at Work. And please come back often and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Keep joining us for more exciting episodes where we help you transform workplace culture to systems that create less drama and stress and have high productivity and profitability. You can get your own tools for the workplace at createmagicatwork.net. I have a new Create Magic at Work, the journal, that just released, and it invites you to reflect about different themes for work and your career. Each section of the journal contains a topic, an affirmation, and 2 prompt questions to help you journal your thoughts. Topics are like inspiring others, mentorship, expansion, and productivity. So connect with me at createmagicatwork.net.
Also connect with me on LinkedIn under Amy Lynn Durham. Sending magic to everyone, and see you next time.